Good afternoon, everybody. And I'm not sure what day of the week it is because we're recording this ahead of time, but good afternoon wherever you are and whatever time it is. My name is Richard Askam. I'm here today to interview three guests who very kindly agreed to join me to talk about really probably the most exciting bit of news in the print industry this year, and in fact possibly for many a year. I've known these three guys for some time now. We've all spent time in each other's company in various events around the world, some of them more sober than others, it has to be said. And of course, we're early in the evening here as I'm recording this, so none of them have started dancing. So I'm quite pleased to say that, having witnessed them all do it. So without further ado, I think I should introduce my guests tonight. I think the best way to describe them really is as print royalty. I think they will not thank me for that, and that may well stick with them for some years to come. But I'm going to introduce to my guests this evening. Good evening, Mr. John Tolley, Mr. John Bailey, Mr. Gary Peeling. Good evening, gentlemen.
Richard, you're called many things, but print royalty is not
one. Stick with that, John. I think that will be a highlight for you.
How you doing?
So, gentlemen, I mean, this is going to be an interesting one. Obviously,
it is. Which one is he?
Yeah, normally. When I do my interviews for these sort of events, it's one-on-one. So 1-on-3 feels a little bit unfair. So please try not to gang up on me. But let's imagine that there's somebody out there watching this that has never heard of any of you, and they've just landed from the International Space Station, and they're going, "Who are these guys?" So one by one, and I'll call you out because I don't know which way you can see each other. Just give us a little bit of who you are, what you do, and why you're here. And we'll start with Mr. Tolley.
Good evening, Richard. It's lovely to be here and do this session with you. Well, you know me. I'm John Tolley, the runner, if you like, of Prime in the newly formed Precision Proco group that you've heard of. I'm also sat on the group board as Chief Innovation Officer. So. Very, very excited to be doing this with the guys. You know that we've known each other for many, many years. This has been in discussion over many beers over many years, but finally started to have some serious conversations about this a couple of years ago. So really, really excited to be doing this and giving us all a little bit of focus.
Thank you very much. Mr. Peeling.
So in the new world, I'm CEO of Precision Proco Group. Before that, I was CEO of Precision Printing. I've also been involved in some technology with OneFlow Systems, which is now SiteFlow. Obviously, D-Scoop as well. And before that, I was at school.
That's good to know. A mature student, then, Joel. We'll put that down as. So thank you. And finally, Mr. Bailey.
It was 40 years summed up in 5 seconds, I guess. Very good. So I am COO of the newly formed Precision Proco Group now, but historically of Proco. Most people recognise me, especially when I'm on the same screen as yourself, Richard, will be from the D-Scoop collaboration and bringing businesses together and innovating in the print industry for a long time. So now I'm delighted to be sat here tonight as part of the newly formed Precision Proco Group, working with lots and lots of talented people, including these two other guys on the screen now.
So thank you, gents, and it's nice to hear from all of you. You can't fake enthusiasm, I don't think, in the print industry. It's either real or non-existent. So clearly you are all on the same page in terms of wanting to do what you're now doing. And as I said at the beginning, it's perfect timing really for this interview. I think possibly the first print event potentially that you three have attended, albeit virtually, together to talk about this. So it's a great opportunity, I think, to sort of get behind that a little bit. And Gary, you mentioned the D-Scoop connection, and of course you guys go way back in the midst of time, I guess, to the formation of D-Scoop and EMEA. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. That's how we met originally, was really through the work that we were doing alongside HP and at the genesis of D-Scoop in Europe. And we were asked, we were all part of the board that formed D-Scoop in the US. We then all went on to take D-Scoop board positions globally, as well as that organisation grew. And I think that was the introduction for us into collaboration. So that introduced us to what D-Scoop's all about, which we're working alongside, learning from them. And looking back to the beginning of this project, it was actually a discussion. Was it in Dallas, guys? I think it was, wasn't it?
I think it was Dallas.
I think it was in a bar in Dallas.
Where all the good things happen.
Yeah, that's right. And essentially, what we were struggling with, which I think a lot of people, not a lot of businesses, a lot of industries are struggling with, is how do we keep up with the digitization of industry. The digital transition is affecting all industries. It is affecting how we all live, how we all work. And the difficulty with some of those challenges is that it requires you to address your business model and to do things completely differently. And that's not straightforward, and it's certainly not cheap. And if you're in the business of building something, you want to be in the business of building something which is great and something that thrives. And that's where the plan was hatched, essentially, is why don't we do this together? We already work together voluntarily with D-Scoop, so why don't we work together in our business and see if we can't move things to the next level?
Yeah, and I remember that event well. I think that was possibly the largest hotel I've ever been in Dallas from memory. So I got lost several occasions.
Probably still trying to find your way around there.
Yeah, exactly. And so, John, Tolly, is this a case really in your world, in the print industry, as it is in a lot of industries at the moment, of sort of go big or go home? I mean, was it a sort of a feeling that now's a good time to get together and strengthen numbers?
Absolutely. I mean, I think, as most people in print know, there are so many avenues and channels for you to be in with print, whether it be commercial print, events, large formats, direct mail, consumer personalized gifts. And as CEO, you're focusing your efforts, on all of these different channels, trying to be master of all, and it's nigh on impossible. And I think what I really love about this, we all three of us do the same thing, right? We all have expertise in those three areas, each with different strengths. And this has just allowed us to focus our efforts entirely in one area. And that just brings with it so much energy, so much focus, and with focus comes results. So, I'm really happy. It is absolutely the right time. We've pulled together three businesses that are culturally aligned, which is probably one of the biggest things in any kind of merger. We all share the same values. So that's 2/3 of the work done, really. Now it's just getting on with the really hard work, which is, getting the results in the door. We've got some strong growth plans within the group. So for us to do this from a position of strength was really critical. I mean, it's not a distressed purchase. It's not something that's come out of a result of the decline in sales from COVID. This has been done from a position of strength some time ago. And that's quite unusual, I think, in this scenario.
Yeah, no, I very much
our takeover or anything like that. So.
Yeah, no, very much agree, John. Thank you. And John Bailey, I guess, does that mean now that the way that John's described it, you've all been able to sort of complement each other with your strengths? Does that mean that it allows you to sort of back away as from some of the things that you were each trying to do, but not necessarily getting anywhere with, and let the other expert take it on? Or are you all still ploughing the same furrow?
I think it's interesting. You know our work ethic, Rich. You've known us for a long time. You know how hard each of us believe in working in our businesses work to make the grade and to be where we were already. I think what's interesting in one thing that John mentioned about bringing the companies together, what we should probably have somebody else on this call from Klein, which is the other business that's joined our group. which is really critical because this is about converting our business into a changing business and a technology business that has print output rather than necessarily print with technology. That's a key play for us. And part of this play is bringing the technology that's underpinned where the trade buys and our internal workflows for the last few years, bringing that into the mix as well.
Yeah.
So what that's enabling us to do is actually to really focus on how we deliver the work we deliver for our clients across all the multiple sites. So by bringing that technology play in, we're able to automate the systems much better, integrate all our sites, which means we can have that centralized production workflow and that centralized production capability to give our clients the best results, whether that's location-wise or utilization-wise or technology-wise, right? So whilst that's then going on, that does then free up the brain. And as we're all trying to do and run the business, we can now focus on our certain areas of strength, right? So we've worked in all the different areas in Sheffield, for example, for a long time. But if I had anyone, I would rather be working on the mass customization products and the personalization products as Mr. Tolley. Now, what's really great is I can now allow John to run with that whilst I focus on other areas. So we've been able to allow our production capabilities to take over and utilize our kit whilst we're focused on real business development. So it's
absolutely, I can see that clearly, and I think it's it's a strange three-way marriage, but it's a perfect one nonetheless. I suspect, and although as you mentioned, there is a fourth partner in there in Climb and Gary, that it might be quite useful, I think, for anybody watching just to cover off exactly what the Precision Proco group now covers in terms of who's in it, where they are, what they do, because it's almost become like a super group. You guys are the new traveling Wilburys of the print industry. Give us a rundown of exactly what now is inside the group.
Okay, so we're taking care of three channels from print revenue point of view. So the first one is the legacy channel that we all had, which is printing for business. So that's printing for marketing communications, and that's being handled under the brand Precision Proco. So we brought those two brand names together, and it was nice to keep those brands, and we've kept Prime as well, because they have a legacy. But we all started printing for business, so Precision Proco will continue to do that. Prime is delivering print as a product or mass customization. So this is for B2B2C opportunities. So businesses that are using print to deliver to consumer. So across the group now, we have the capability to print and produce and ship 300 to 400,000 unique orders per day. So that makes us the biggest in the UK, arguably one of the biggest in the world. I don't really know what the hit parade of that is. And finally, the last part is Where the Trade Buys. And Where the Trade Buys is an upload and print platform, primarily aimed at resellers. And this allows customers to order their own print products. And Climb, which is the final part of the puzzle, is the technology business that built Where the Trade Buys. So they build technology for us for e-commerce, and they also build some of the unique automation and workflow solutions that we use in the back of the business as well. So not only will Climb provide the technology needs for the whole group, and we're looking to deploy some of the lessons that we've learned in the upload and print space and take it over into the B2B market, which we think hasn't necessarily been done successfully yet. But not only will they supply the technology for the group, but they will also be able to supply e-commerce solutions to external customers as well, our customers. So we all know through COVID that the transition in terms of the way that people buy has changed, and there's a lot of businesses that are looking to deploy e-commerce solutions. So Climb will be able to deliver that to external customers as well.
I think the first thing we're going to be doing, Rich, is asking Climb to install home Wi-Fi between. You'll hear us all shout at the kids in a minute. Will you please get off the Wi-Fi?
Yeah, I know, that's the problem.
That's it.
I think it's known as lockdown contention ratio, as far as I'm aware.
Every single device in the local area is now just turned on.
Yes, quite, and plugged into Gary. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, John, while I've got you on a clear Wi-Fi link, normally, in the sort of situation that you're describing, in mergers and so on and so forth, usually the first thing that they try and do is pull out costs and close down sites and get rid of staff and bring everything to the center and make it cost efficient and run on rails. But before we started the call, you were giving me a bit of a geographical tour of the country as to where the group now operates from. Again, for the benefit of the viewers, just tell me where exactly and what exactly those sites are and what happens at those sites.
Well, yeah, it's been nice. You get a sense of the scale of the business by going around each of the sites. So last week we went around and met the teams at all locations, which was Newcastle, where Clymar, we met the team up there, really fired up, really energised, young bunch, which is fantastic to see.
I really fit in up there, Rich. I fit in up there.
I've got shoes older than most of those guys. But amazing bunch, really fired up, and that we're heavily recruiting in that side now. We went over to Sunderland to meet the team at Where the Trade Buys, which is fantastic. They've done an amazing job up there. We've recently recruited a new sales team up there, which has been fantastic. We went to the Sheffield team, met those guys. Had a session there, had a walk around, meet the team, which has been amazing. Oh, by the way, which is really nice. Here we are. At each location, we've had our own keys. So we've got keys to all the offices now, which is helpful.
Trust me, when the alarm goes off on a Saturday night, they're going to be ringing one of you three guys. I would imagine.
They'll regret having all them sites now.
And then we went over to the Nottingham facility to see the guys there and meet the team, which was to let people know that we're a friendly bunch and we're normal. And we're not a bunch of ogres. Well,
I won't go that far, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Backfired badly, didn't it?
But you may or may not know, we're actually in the process of moving at the minute. So we had a tour of the new facilities that we are in the process of moving into as we speak. Okay. Which is a site that's about 3 times the size of where we are now, just over 3 times the size. So that's fantastic. Really excited to be going in there. It gives us a whole new raft of capability. Then from there, we went down to our London site and met the team down there, which was amazing to see. And then over to High Wycombe to see the team in our High Wycombe facilities. So
wow.
Yeah, it was a big tour, big road tour last week, but really, really nice. Everyone's so fired up. It's really good to see.
I'd like to add there, Rich, actually, that is a beautiful thing to listen to John there. We're all in a transition zone, right? We've worked with our own businesses for 25, 30 years. And trying to get us into the language of our facilities, I know. Right? It's been quite interesting. So you can tell when you're talking through it. It was one of the hardest things last week, was talking through it to make sure we didn't slip up and say that. But actually, it's starting to get good. So John, I'm very proud of you. That was a good effort. Well done.
Yeah, no, I agree, John. It is, when you, and I mean this with all due respect, when you've been doing it as long as you guys have been doing it, then it's pretty much ingrained, not only in the way that you work, but also in the way that you talk about work, which is a natural thing. Yeah. We've all been, kings of our own kingdom for moments in time, and it's quite hard, I think, to adjust to a change. Not to say that the change is bad, but the adjustment is difficult. Yeah. So I guess this is going to be some time, John Bailey, before this kind of sinks all the way in to a certain extent.
Yeah, I told people in the office I made a big play about making sure how we were answering the phone, and I went straight away and rang someone and said I'm ringing from Proco. Right, it's just the way it's like an ingrained habit. But I think what's lovely about it is actually everybody's seeing the right side of it and wanting to make that change as quick as possible, because everybody sees the value in what we're doing. I mean, part of the main positive thing about it was both customers and staff really embraced it when we told them the news. And the feedback from both sides has been absolutely fantastic. They see that we're better together. They see that we're actually brilliant together. And people have been so quick to embrace the new opportunities and to work with the other teams and to be emailing each of us. And we had a session today with the sales team from a Precision Proco perspective across all sites. And just the feedback's been fantastic with that willingness to want to try something new. I think when you have businesses in the print industry, and you know this, Rich, lots of people are reluctant to change. The change is really important. I think we're lucky in that we've all built a history of change and of innovation. So our teams are kind of in the psyche of accepting it. And that's not to say they don't need, reassurance and clarity. And we've worked really hard to make sure we've given them that clarity when we've done the merger. But actually, it's been really rewarding. Actually, how they've responded to that.
And that's interesting. And Gary, on the other side of this, how has the industry responded to this news? Because largely speaking, what you're all describing is a bit of an industry powerhouse. I would imagine there must be some nervous people out there.
There could quite possibly be, but I would imagine they're probably our competitors, and they're not going to tell us.
True.
We have heard from the the original equipment manufacturers and the suppliers and the trade press, and I think overwhelmingly it's been really positive feedback. I think what everybody's looking for, not just in the graphic art sector, but in all sectors, is some optimism. I think back through with all sectors, that there are people that have hunkered down and taken a defensive position, and then there are people that have sort of strided out. And there are opportunities that came out of COVID, and we know that a lot of print companies made use of those. We did ourselves with PPE and other products. But it's what do you do then? You can't just take a defensive position. You've got to be optimistic, and optimism was really where we started with this. But we didn't start with that at COVID. We started with that 2 years ago. Yeah. Print as a channel has got a place, but we've got to completely change and re-engineer the way that customers use it. It's got to be simple to use and simple to choose. And it isn't. And it's a funny story, actually, because as a printer, we rarely use print as a channel, and we had a great deal of difficulty printing and mailing our own brochure between this
bloody nightmare.
Don't say that. You're supposed to be.
It's only when you try to
like a dream.
A print project, you realise how difficult it is to get the mailing list, to get the artwork, get all the stuff together, and we wonder why it's easier to click the button to add another $5,000 to the Google account. And when we change that, we'll do. Digital advertising is expensive. It's horrendously expensive. We know that because we run an e-commerce business now, and print has got the solution to that, but we've got to re-engineer the way that people access it, and that's what we intend to do.
So John Tolley, I know you well enough to know that you've always got, if not one eye, 1.5 eyes on the future of the industry and basically how to get to it. Would you say that this is almost an inevitability that you three were going to come together at some point, really? There's always the considerations in life that you should have done it sooner. You should have got rid of the car, should have got rid of the girlfriend, should have got rid of whatever it is. There was always wish we'd done it sooner. Do you think this is the right, absolute smack on right time, or is it as COVID slowed you down? What's been the timing like in terms of actually executing this merger?
I think there's been a couple of bumps in the road while we've been doing this. Brexit and COVID kind of got in the way a little bit.
A little bump.
Just a little bump. But I think this is you know how I feel about collaboration, right, Rich? This is and Gary talked about competitors. Yeah, so what? As far as I'm concerned, we're getting on with what we're doing. This is the right time for us to be doing this. This is the right moment for all of our businesses. We're all very confident about what we're doing, very focused about what we're doing, and this is about collaborating, not just internally with us all, but with other businesses around us. There are sectors that we don't operate in right now, and we'll be collaborating very closely with a number of people in the industry and beyond to get those outcomes. And I think this is the new way. The world has changed, right? There's absolutely no question that the world in which we live in and how we operate and how we run our business has changed completely. And we've changed with it. And that's not just as a consequence of COVID, it would have happened anyway.
Yeah.
And this is a fantastic chance for us to be doing it at just the right time.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because everybody keeps referring to it as the new normal, but I actually think it's just the future. I think we would have probably got here anyway. We've just accelerated to it really rather quickly.
Yeah, and that's the point. It's accelerated.
Yeah.
The future's been accelerated by, Gary talks about this a lot. The future's been accelerated by 5 years. In all
2025, definitely.
Yeah. Sorry, John, I was just going to ask you, actually, John Bailey, you mentioned earlier on in your eloquent introduction of your role in the group that it's a technology play. And would you, looking at the other businesses that have almost started as one thing and become something else? So use the example of Ocado, who entered the market to be an online grocer and have ended up being a technology company. Would you say that within the development of what you're looking to do here, that there are, to a certain extent, spin-offs of what you're doing that could help other people in the industry? The reason I ask this, and it's a very long question, forgive me, but I've always been struck, certainly at the D-Scoop events that I've been at, over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, at the willingness within the print industry to collaborate. And it's never appeared to be, well, you collaborate first. It's been true. So I'm just curious to know whether that technology development that you mentioned is something that you may well see as providing solutions to other people in the industry.
Yeah, 100%. Right. So the whole collaboration piece is about sharing to grow the industry, because actually, if there's more of us doing it and more of us doing it successfully and doing it correctly, then it generates more business and we generate more new customers. And more, the next generation want to be involved in print, and that's longevity for all of us. That's absolutely the right play. Now, if that means the technology platforms that we end up building for ourselves and for our clients are then able to be spun out to help the industry and to grow the industry, and for other people to make, exactly like Gary said, make it easier and simpler for people to print, then of course, absolutely, that's part of the play. And by having Climb on board, we actually have a business that understands e-commerce technology, not just to use it, but actually how to sell it out. Gary's had a little bit of experience. I know he says that in software, he's not done bad with a few systems we've all heard of. But it's definitely part of the play.
Yeah, interesting. No, and I think that's such a because that could go anywhere, couldn't it? Really, when you keep expansive thinking possible, then it can happen. And I think if I know nothing else about you guys than this, it's that your willingness to move forward is unquestionable, and that's let's be honest, that's the only way to be in business, isn't it? Is to keep moving forward. So, 100%. So Gary, what I've read some bandied around quotes in the press of what your plan is, and to double in size, and to be one of, if not the biggest companies or groups in the print industry, certainly in the UK and possibly in Europe. What does good look like to you?
Well, our plan is to double our size in 3 years. So that's the plan, and that would be good enough. If we get to 50% of the size, that'll also be good as well. But the interesting thing is that we have a plan and we know how to address it and how we're going to go for it. A big part of that is being able to separate and focus and.
It's all right. Deliveroo's just arrived at Bailey now,
I've got something wrong here. I'm drinking tea.
You didn't get the memo, JT.
It was actually Deliveroo, my daughter's moo, so it was
Deliveroo. I love it. Brilliant.
Sorry, Gary. Carry on.
Very serious point, Gary. Sorry.
Look, Deliveroo is it. Right. So Deliveroo is it. So what's Deliveroo? That's a guy on a motorbike, but it's actually a technology business.
Yeah,
right? But it's not a guy on a motorbike. It's a technology business.
Yeah.
So that's fundamentally what we're looking to do is to put technology at the heart of what we do, change the way that people access the product. That'll be successful. And yes, if we can productize that and give that to other printers, we have a product at the moment called Inky from Where the Trade Buys, where you can create your own version of Where the Trade Buys. Any of our resellers can have their own e-commerce shop. That's an indication of the way that we want to go. We want to make products that make print easy to use. So that will be a success. So yes, in 3 years, we're looking to be twice the size we are now. The really interesting thing is, completing this deal through Brexit and COVID, 5 companies, 20 shareholders, global disasters breaking out left, right and centre was a bit challenging. And we
Not ideal.
had this vision that when we actually started, life would get simpler. But actually what's happened is it's been like a firework and everyone's gone, right, now we can start. And literally we have never been busier. And we're seeing all of those disparate people coming together and moving out in different directions. And that's the thing. What we're looking to do far, we would have been able to do by ourselves. And judging by the first 2 weeks, there's no question that's going to happen.
I think to add to that, if I can, you mentioned earlier about what other people think and the industry says, and I agree with John. I'm not bothered really what everyone else thinks. But I'll tell you what I am bothered about. What I'm bothered about is that I was compelled after a meeting we had yesterday evening to ring Gary to just be in awe of what we've actually managed to pull together and create, because we had a meeting yesterday for 2 hours with 12 of the leadership team on it, and it was unbelievable. And I was humbled by what we'd managed to achieve. And I come off that call and I was compelled to ring Gary to say, take a look at that, what we've managed to pull together. And that's what's important. And like Gary said, everybody is on fire. They're focused, they feel accountable, they feel engaged, and they feel like it's their business. Now, if you can get a business fired up with 300 people thinking it's their business, I think it's a pretty good starting point, to be fair.
It sounds a little bit like you've built your own tribe between the three of you individually, and now collectively you've joined those tribes together, and actually they are just one big tribe, which is the holy grail in business, isn't it? Is to have everybody pushing in the right direction. And John, Tolly, whenever I've met you at trade shows over the last few years, you always say the same thing to me, which is you're looking for the one thing that you can take home from that trade show that is something that you've never seen before. Is this it? Is this arrangement? Is that the one thing that you were actually looking for?
It was me.
It's got tricky actually, Rich. I've got to be honest, because having been around Sunderland, Newcastle, Sheffield, London, and High Wycombe, I've now got 1,000 things, and I'm like a kid in a sweet shop. It's fantastic. I'm really fired up, and I literally, we've been speaking to loads of our customers, our mutual customers, and been product innovations and quick wins and getting new things in there very quickly. It's really exciting. And just going back to John's point, someone reminded me this morning, and it's that humbling moment. We've got through 2/3 of that barrier because we've just not got the culture clash or the values clash in the businesses. Everyone is so engaged, and you kind of, when things don't move, what I'm like, when things don't move fast enough, you kind of get a little bit frustrated about it. And one of my guys said to me today, John, we're 4 days into this, because we finished the tour last Thursday, Friday. He says, you're 4 days into this, just calm down a bit. And it's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, fair enough. But that's how much energy there is. It's fantastic. It's brilliant. So in answer to your point, yes, there's a lot to go at, and I'm really fired up by.
It's fabulous to see that. The only thing that worries me about what you're all describing here is the number of Christmas parties that, when we're allowed to go to them, you'll be able to go to. You know what? It's funny you should say that, Rich. When we were asking the questions, that was one of the things. Are we definitely going to have a combined one all-together Christmas party? That was the first thing that was decided. As long as there's only 6 of you, John. Obviously,
yeah.
But, let's stick to the rules
when we're allowed. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
As long as it's in Sheffield because it's cheaper. We can't have it in Newcastle because it's shut. So
karaoke.
So, coming towards the end of this interview, if we can call it that, tonight, what would you say, in a nutshell for me, the three of you, really, you've done such a great job, I think, not only over the years with your own individual businesses, but the notion and logic of pulling those together at this moment in time in our history. And let's be honest, we probably, I certainly won't be around when they judge this period of time. Tolly might be because he's younger. But what do you think really that this is going to mean down the line for not only you as individuals, but also for the businesses? Let's start with Mr. Tolly.
Oh, I knew you'd say that.
I'm glad he did that as well. Yeah.
I think if I was to sum it up in one word, it would be legacy. You know, this is about the future of print. This is about the people. You do this for your people, right? You know, we all of us could have got out at some point in the past, but we haven't, and we've done this for the people that are with us, for the next generation of those that are, you know, coming up the ladder, coming through the ladders. We've all got some amazing talent in the businesses, and we want to see those individuals thrive and take it to the next level. So legacy would be my one word.
Good choice. Mr. Bailey.
I've always wanted an office in Dagenham. You know,
and your dream has come true.
Darjeeling, you know that.
Darjeeling, yeah.
You know, I don't know, Rich. I mean, we can all get all big about the future stuff. All I know is, contrary to what everyone says, and some of the people that have made comments about when we did this about, you know, is it going to work? Is it not going to work? All I know is there's more mutual respect and trust in the people on this call than anyone else. I trust them with myself and my life. More than that, I trust them with my team because we all have the same work ethic and ethos. So I know that this was the right call for them. And the right call I think it's the right call for us as well individually, because I think it'll help us get support and mentoring each other. And it's a lonely place when you're trying to drive in our industry. So I believe what we've done is secured the jobs of a lot of people in a tough industry, but more than that, actually giving them a future and a focus and an optimism in a very, very difficult time in the world. We've got a lot of people who are very positive right now, which you know, I think a lot of people would wish they could say the same thing.
Yeah, no, well said. And Gary?
Yeah, I think, you know, if I was watching this, I'd be looking at these three faces and thinking about the last 6 months and thinking, well, they're all looking for themselves. And I'd share one thing, you know, in March when the world fell in, we weren't merged, and we were as terrified as everybody else would be. You know, we were on the brink of losing everything like everybody else was. But we'd already had our kickoff meeting, and what we did is we worked together, and I have to say that was a huge benefit to be able to bounce ideas and strategies off of one another and be able to work through that. So that was a huge advantage, and it really touches on what John said earlier, which is it's a lonely place. Like if you're your own boss, you have autonomy. So you know, so we all owned our own businesses, and now we own a smaller part of a bigger business, and that takes courage to take that step. But actually, once you've done it, what you get back is so rewarding, because there's also on the downside, there's too often we've had to settle for good enough. We said, you know, we can only do, you know, we can only manage this because we can't afford it. We can only manage this because there's only so much time in the day. And really what this is about is releasing that potential and saying, no, good enough is not good enough anymore, because we will be able to deliver everything. We will be able to invest in what we need, and we will be able to deal with the problems that come along the way. So then brilliant will be good enough. But you have to share a little bit. You have to take that first step, and then once you do, things look brighter.
No, well said. And thank you. And thank you all three of you really for your time today. I really appreciate you giving up to sit and talk to me, you know, rambling on. You've all actually, in your own way, been instrumental in what I laughingly call my current career in the print industry.
Oh, God. It's our fault, Rich.
Yeah, it is largely. So I apologise to the world on your behalf for allowing me to do what I do. But I genuinely mean it when I say thank you to all three of you. I'm proud to class all three of you as friends, and I very much look forward to bumping into you drunkenly stumbling out of a bar somewhere around the world sometime soon when we're all allowed.
Talking about?
when we're all allowed to do it again, and I'm sure we will. But for now, congratulations on the news of your merger. I wish you well. I don't think you need luck. You're all highly skilled at what you do, and I think it will just be amazing the next few years to come. So Mr. Tolley, Mr. Bailey, Mr. Peeling, thank you very much indeed.